If your creative push has helped you, you can help out this show by shopping on Amazon. Just head to yourcreativepush.com/Amazon. That will take you right to Amazon.com and you can do your shopping. It won't cost you anything extra, and a percentage of your purchases will go directly to helping to host your creative push. And especially with the holidays coming up, you can make a big difference just by buying the stuff that you were going to buy anyway. Again, the link is yourcreativepush.com/Amazon. And thank you so much for thinking about the show and for helping out. Your Creative Push, episode 316.
That was something that I was doing for healing, waiting for the next thing in my life to happen, never knowing that this was the thing that was going to happen.
Welcome to Your Creative Push, the podcast that pushes you to pursue your creative passions. I'm your host, Youngmin Brown, and my guest today is Felix Semper. Felix is a painter and also a sculptor who makes these incredible stretchable paper sculptures that at first appear to be a very solid stone bust, but then he grabs the top of the sculpture and stretches it out into this accordion-style structure that will blow your mind. And it's such a great segue from 2 weeks ago when we talked to magician Adam Wilbur, and we talked about giving those moments that take people out of their reality. And that's exactly what happens with Felix's sculptures when he shows them off. And that's something that we actually talk about right away. Felix also discusses how he used to be very creative, but then took a long break from his artistic endeavors and the career that he built for himself by building properties, and then what happened after the housing crash in 2008. Felix talks about how he got back to his creative roots because of this as a means of healing his pain, and then the aha moment that he had when he thought back to cutting paper in a print shop, one of his previous jobs, and how that was one of the seeds that had been planted so long ago before he started his sculptures, and how so many other pieces came together to give him this aha moment when he realized that this was a real thing that he could do. And then Felix gets into the idea that it was off to the races for him once he made that first sculpture, and how now time disappears when he is making his art. Felix also discusses some of the resistances that he deals with, such as self-doubt, that doubt that creeps in as he starts a piece, and then that eventual moment of recognition when the piece first appears. Sometimes that takes weeks, sometimes months, but it always comes, and that is what we seek out as artists. I had such a fun time talking with Felix because he has such an enthusiasm and such an excitement now that he has found his niche, and it really comes through. So I know you're going to be inspired and in awe by my guest today, Felix Semper. Felix, welcome to Your Creative Push, man.
Hi, I'm honored to be here.
Honored to have you here. My wife put me onto your very unique sculptures. I feel like every time somebody sees your sculpture, it's like your heart skips a beat because you don't expect what's coming. So actually, maybe before we get into kind of your past, could you tell us a little bit about your very unique sculptures?
Yeah, I mean, my sculptures are definitely unique. They're unique because you don't expect to see what's going to happen once I do what I do with my sculpture. So, you look at my bust, for example, of Biggie or any other bust that I've made or any sculpture that I've made, and you are led to believe that this is a solid piece of sculpture that has been carved I have a handbag, a Birkin bag that you think is a real Birkin bag. So when I take that bag and open it up and stretch it, and that's when the imagination just collapses, and there's some kind of a short in your brain that doesn't understand what's happening. Because it opens up like an accordion,
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Almost like when a magician changes your reality. It's like you don't expect Biggie to just expand into this. It's crazy.
People can't get enough, because I think there's there's a kind of soothing effect to this sculpture while it opens, because when it opens, you just feel a lot of people tell me this, they feel relaxed. They feel like, like they just, it's like a therapy kind of for them. So
right.
I think it does a lot of things.
On the show, I always talk about, because I myself am not a visual artist, I'm a writer. Sure. And anytime I watch a video of some, or a speed painting, or just watch somebody drawing or doing something that I don't understand, my brain doesn't kind of compute, I always describe it as tickling my brain.
Right.
I love it. It is like a therapeutic feeling, and it definitely is the same way. Like when you're looking at you playing with one of your sculptures, and like that kind of unexpected thing, and just seeing it kind of is very zen.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like I said, a lot of people just tell me they can't get enough of it. They keep playing it over and over and over because somehow it's just, first of all, your mind doesn't believe what it's seeing, and secondly, it's so soothing and relaxing that you just want to continue to watch it and be relaxed by it. And so, yeah, I think a lot of psychiatrists need to be recommending this to their patients
Yes,
for therapeutic purposes.
Oh, I totally agree. Well, can you kind of take us to the point that you are today? Like, tell us how you got to this point of making these sculptures.
I've always, you don't just happen one day to wake up and decide to be an artist. I mean, I think this is something you're born with. It's a gift that you've been given in this life, and you either choose to go with it or you don't. As I was growing up, I was always artistic. I love painting. I love drawing. I always had, I was inclined to arts, and everything I did was kind of revolved around that. So as I was growing up, I did a short animation movie in my school and my like junior high or something like that. I did like thousands of sheets of paper, made a small cartoon, like about a minute long, but it was like 20,000 sheets. So it was crazy by the time. Anyways, it turned out really good, and I won some awards for that in school. But, as life happens, as you grow up, and I took some classes in art and all that, but life happens, and I got married and had a family, and just kind of had to do what I had to do to keep going, and just kind of put art aside. Did construction. I actually worked for a print shop for a long time, cutting paper, and that's where a lot of maybe some of this stuff is still in the back of my brain. A lot of these experiences that I had in life. They've all come together into this event, into this, where I can create all these things based on my experiences and based on all these things I've done. Because I think the experience I had at the print shop, where I used to be in the back cutting paper and seeing the paper shift and take form, and I think all that was just there. And then, once I got to this point, then I was able to utilize that experience that I had to put all this together. But anyways, I had a family, and then just kind of decided to be a builder because, the building boom and all that. My dad was an electrician, so I worked with him for a long time, and just was always in the building industry. So, just got my builder's license and started developing property. It was very successful, building a lot of custom homes. And I was always using my artistic ability to be able to incorporate into all my work. Everything I did was just very aesthetically beautiful. And I always was, without any degrees in design or anything like that, I was able to, just kind of put a lot of things together that looked pleasing to the eye. So, in that sense, I got the reward that I needed, artistically to be able to continue. Because, as an artist, you need that artistic inputs every day. Meanwhile, also I was doing some little paintings and drawings here and there, but not very much. So, it's 2008 housing crisis. I had about 10 houses that were custom homes. These are homes that were $500,000 and up. They were spec houses, and they were just sitting there. A lot of them were unfinished, and a lot of them were up for sale. And the banks, just say, "Hey, we want our money," and people weren't buying. And I said, "Well, it's time to give it up. I got to walk away from this." So, it was very hard for me because I had already, thought I had something that was, it's going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Something that I had established and worked real hard to get. And all of a sudden you lose that, and you lose that, that stability of income and for your family and for everything that you do. So that it was extremely hard. I had to file for bankruptcy, and kind of like I thought I was going to go crazy, and then went back to my roots, I just started drawing and just started, basically to heal my wound, just to heal what was happening in my outside. This is one way to find peace. So I just started doing all these artistic things, and just the more I did it, the more I wanted to do. It's like one day I had a big pad and just started drawing, sketching all day long, and like hundreds of sheets of paper all over my house. My wife walks in in the afternoon. She said, "What is this stuff? Are you crazy? You got hundreds of sheets of paper. They're gorgeous." I said, "Yeah, I was just trying." So anyways, another day, there was a big snowstorm, This was months after I was already doing this. I just wanted to get out the house, and I had they call it cabin fever, where you just so long inside, you just want to get outside. So I went outside and started playing with the snow. Mind you, I'd never done a sculpture in my life. I've never done anything 3D in my life other than buildings, houses, all of a sudden I built this amazingly beautiful sculpture and my wife came out, she said, wow, you really got to take some classes. You got a natural gift for creating this stuff. So I did. I took some weekend classes and, just nothing serious, just, stuff on the side. But I soon realized that I was taking all these classes. I immediately excelled in the class, and everybody was just like, wow, you got a gift for this stuff. So, I realized that following what everybody else was doing, and if I was going to take art seriously in my life, I had to create something totally radical, something totally new that no one had ever really seen before. And that's hard because, we think that everything has been invented and everything's been done. And in reality, it isn't. There's still so much stuff out there there's so many angles and so many things that we can do just based on your creativity and on your passion for what you do. So I just started looking into myself, and then all these things. That's where my past came in. That's where my working in the print shop came in, because I said, everybody makes sculptures out of plaster, out of this and that, just traditional stuff. Why don't I do it out of paper? So I started gluing solid paper together into blocks and carving it. And I said, yeah, this will work. And then eventually it took me about a year to figure out how to move it, because, that's where the animation came in. I have always wanted to be an animator. I've always wanted things to move. I love movement. I love to see it in different perspectives. So all this stuff just kind of just fell on top of each other. And bang, just my first sculpture came out, and I was like, wow. I said, I think I've got something. So, the next thing was to just I really did it not thinking that I was going to really make it big or anything in art. I just wanted to do it just because that was something that I was doing for healing, waiting for the next thing in my life to happen, never knowing that this was the thing that was going to happen. So, that just started to develop on its own. And I, decided to make sculptures. And I figured, if I'm going to make this type of stuff, because I saw that when I made a sculpture, people just wanted to record it and document it and share it with other people, because it was something that's so unique. So immediately I saw the opportunity to film everything I did and to go out. I go to Washington Square Park in New York, or to Union Square, and then just take my sculptures out and just show it to people. And immediately mobs of people started coming out with video cameras and with their phones and sharing it all over the world. And then that's when it became everyone just shared my work and went viral. And, that's where I'm at today. I've done stuff for celebrities on a daily basis. I've got tons of commissions now, and showing my work all over the world. And, I couldn't be any happier.
Yeah. So, wow, there's so many directions I could go. And I love your story. And so would you say that you kind of are of the opinion now that it's not just this thing that you're doing for healing, and this is kind of the new path that you're on?
Oh, without a doubt. This is my career now. This is it. I don't want to do anything else for the rest of my life. I want to do art. I wake up every morning and go to my studio and start working, and I'm the happiest person on earth. I'm just doing what I love, is doing what your passion is. And I don't think about time. I don't think about food when I'm doing it. I don't think about anything. It's like a therapy. It's like you go there in this world and you wake up and it's 8 hours later. You say, what the hell?
God, that's so awesome. Yeah. And like the thing that I love about that, and the thing that it's really hard to tap into, especially when somebody's in the same position as the Felix in 2008, where you just need this thing to do for you. You not only need to find something to do for money, like the new path that you're trying to find, but you also need that thing for healing. And so often that thing that you can go to for healing ends up becoming that thing that you need to do for money. But you have to do it for the healing part. You have to do it because it's something that you want to do, or something that makes you happier or brings joy to others. Like that's the thing that you have to tap into first, not that this is going to be the thing that's going to make me as much money as I was making before.
Yeah, absolutely. I really was not doing it because of the money at all. I've always, well, not I've always, but for the past 15 years or so, I've been into a lot of motivational therapy and things like that. I've been, listening to a lot of Tony Robbins, and a lot of motivational stuff, man, because I think that, that really helped me, with everything I did. So I think I was also able to incorporate all that. And one thing I learned from seeing a lot of these people and doing a lot of this stuff is, follow your passion, not because you want the money, because you expect something out of it. But if you follow your passion and you do what you love, you're going to glow so much that everything else will be attracted to it. So you're going to bring all these other things that are going to come behind it. So I think that's exactly what's happened to me.
I love it. Well, looking back at 2008 and like the situation you were in, how do you see that in hindsight? Is it like more of that, kind of tragic thing that happened, or is it more of like this, like, I don't know, like this, your artistic self was like a sleeper cell, and now 2008 allowed it to be awakened again because it was allowed to come out and play?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always been there. Like I said, I mean, I've always had that creative side of me that was always, tickling me to do something. And when the crisis came, I thought this was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. This is the end of everything, the end of my world as I know it. And little did I know it wasn't the end of my world as I knew it, but it was the beginning of my new life.
I love that. So often the bad times lead to the good times. It's so hard to see in the moment, but in hindsight, that's...
Yeah, you don't see it. You don't really see it because you're so engulfed with all this pain and all this anguish that's happening around you that you don't see that this is a path. Sometimes you have to go through fire to create a beautiful piece. Sometimes, a fire has to melt the gold in order to be created into a beautiful gold ring or something beautiful. So I think that's what was happening. I had to go through that fire. I had to go through all that turbulence to be able to get to those blue skies.
I love that. Yeah, and the other thing that is so cool about your story is that, already we can see all these hints of what was to come later, at least this theme of paper. So what was that process of kind of figuring out how to make it work? You want to do something new, but then figuring out, okay, how am I going to make this kind of material, this bust that I can start carving out? What was that process of kind of discovering it from ground zero?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, originally I went to these classes and saw that most sculptors were using, traditional materials like stone or like plaster or like, mud, different kinds of things that, we've been using for hundreds of thousands of years as a species. And we just, I said, I love the look of that, but I mean, there's no wow factor. There's nothing. You're just looking at a dead piece of something that's just sitting there. Yeah, you can admire it. It's gorgeous. So, as I was, as I came home one day, I said, I had the idea all of a sudden just came to me in my head, I guess because it was just there, So the paper, I mean, obviously I was using paper on a daily basis to draw, to paint. So it was something that's in front of me. And I said, why don't I use paper? Why don't I just, and then I recall the time where I used to get in the cutter and put stacks of paper in a cutter and would cut the paper. And that paper would shift and then just create these images. And I said, paper can do that. I mean, paper is individually, but as you put it solidly and on top of each other and you glue it, it's a solid block. So that was my idea. My idea was just to create a sculpture that was just paper, but glued together as a solid block. But then as I did that, I saw it work. But then I said, there's not much to it because, I mean, how am I? It's so great. It's so fantastic. It fools so many people that you really don't know if it's paper or wood or stone or anything. So, I mean, how am I going to make somebody believe that this is, paper because it looks so damn real? So that's when I said, I got to create something. So, that's where my animation part came in. And then I just started trying to figure it out how to move this damn thing or how to make this thing where people can see that it's not a block. It's something other than that. So, I created a template and to be able to glue these sheets of paper into stacks. And then, that was a trial and error thing. And like I said, it took me over a year to come up with the whole thing. But I finally was able to do it and put a template together and started gluing these sheets together. And then the first sculpture came out. I just couldn't believe it.
And now, how long does it take you to kind of make before you even start sculpting, how long does it take you to make the actual bust? The materials?
Yeah, well, I mean, to glue, for example, a bust like Biggie used to take me, about a month to glue the paper. But now I have a system where I've got a company that glues them for me. So I've taught them how to do it.
Nice.
So I don't have to do that anymore. So my time is now all my time is in creating and not in the tedious work of gluing paper. I mean, I'll glue a certain amount of paper, but not thousands of sheets of paper. But yeah, originally it would take about a month and a half to glue a bust, And then the thing is that if you make a mistake, there's no going back. Like, it's like a sculpture. You make a mistake and you're screwed. So.
Right. And so you glued the whole biggie. You glued
Yes.
all of them together.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
so what kind of pressure then does that build on you? First of all, like as you're kind of gluing it together, it takes like a month. Are you just like salivating? Like, oh, I can't wait to carve this shit up.
And the thing is that I'm also a painter. So, I mean, I learned how to paint. I taught myself how to paint also while I was doing all this stuff. So I don't know if you've seen some of my paintings, but I mean,
yeah, it's beautiful.
I've sold a lot of my paintings. Actually, I've sold more paintings than sculptures, but people love my paintings as well. And my paintings have developed, so that's my quick release of creativity, because these sculptures take so long and they take so many weeks or months to create that I really need an escape for creativity. Although I'm creating there, but it's kind of like monotonous, because you're kind of creating something and you're sanding and you're doing all this, and it's really not a spontaneous creativity like you do when you paint. So when I paint, I really get an explosive creativity of release. I release it all right there and then within a couple of hours, and that kind of helps me to keep, just kind of balance it out, the creative side.
Yeah, it's so necessary, and especially for anybody that's doing any type of creative thing, even if it's, even if you're just a painter and you're doing a big painting and you're getting stuck, or you're writing a novel and you're just getting stuck, it's so important to just take a break, just to put it aside and go into something else.
Oh, yeah,
just so that you can kind of free your mind up.
And talk about putting something aside. I mean, I was never a patient person. I want an instant gratification. I do something and I want to see it now. I don't want to wait a month from now, 2 months from now. So it was extremely difficult. It really taught me to be patient, to start something today. And I know I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to see the end of it today. So I just got to work on it little by little, and eventually it will take a shape. And that has taught me to be very, very patient. I mean, a lot of people tell me, you must be so patient. I said, well, I really wasn't. I was not patient at all. I think I've learned that.
Right. And just talking about the pressure, even if you're not gluing all the pieces of paper together yourself and spending all that time creating it, I'm sure it's not cheap to get this, this bust. And then what kind of pressure is on you then when you, before you start carving that first, etching out the first little bit of it, how much do you know of what it's going to end up looking like? And then
I have no idea.
Really?
Oh, no. I mean, I have no idea. I was just for example, I just finished a piece about a month ago, a Frida bust, a Frida Kahlo.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So that bust, when I started it, and I really had no idea how it was going to turn out. I've never done in reality, I've really had never done a woman before other than Marilyn Monroe as a bust. I had never done a woman. So it was something new to me, and I really, I don't know. I was getting into a new territory because women have softer features. Biggie has a big neck, and he's a rough guy, and she has to be dead on that. So it was like when I started, I always doubt myself when I start. Like anybody else, you think you got it all under control, but you don't. You start and you always doubt yourself, and there's always a breaking moment. Weeks or months later when you make something and you say, "Whoa, there it is." Now I'm seeing her. So that's, that happened with her. And it happens with almost every single bust that I make. There's always a turning point where you get to, a part of the sculpture where it actually turns and you say, wow, this is the direction now it's looking like her. And it happens with every one of them. But it's a joy when that happens.
Right. I think any creative person can relate to that too. There's that moment where you're like, all these struggles, all these kind of questions or decisions that I've had to make up to this point, and I'm not quite sure the direction it's going, and then you can kind of see it for what it is. Like you can go over that peak and see the other side, the beautiful kind of thing that's going to be created out of it, and it's just like that's what it is, that moment right there. Oh, yeah. It's like collecting those moments as much as you can. That's what it is to be a creative person.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It has for me. It has really. Like I said, it's taught me so much. Art has taught me so much that you really don't know about yourself until you start opening up these new avenues and you start going these new directions you've never gone before. And And it just teaches you so much about yourself, and what you can and cannot do, and what your trust and your faith and everything. It's just everything comes together into this big package. And people just see the art at the end, but there's so much process involved when it comes to when you see it on the video. Way before that, I go through so much because all these processes have to take place.
Right. Now, what's like the durability of the sculptures? Like, how delicate are they? And have you ever had to put Band-Aids on them, so to speak?
Yeah, I've had to put kind of Band-Aids, so to speak. And I'll tell you a story in a minute. But first of all, I like to address the fact that they're extremely hardy sculptures. Mm-hmm. They could be as solid as a block of wood. If you keep the sculptures closed and you hit them with a bat, your bat will break before these sculptures will even bend, because it won't bend.
That's awesome.
Because they're a solid. I mean, imagine hitting a block of wood. I mean, that's how hard they are. There's just a block of wood, because when they're closed, they're just solid. Now,
you said Biggie's like 80 pounds, right?
Yeah, Biggie's like 80 pounds. Biggie's is not. They don't call him big for nothing. But anyways, but when they become frail or fragile is when you open them up, because that's when you expose each individual, and that also tells you so much. I mean, you can bring that in. You can write a theory of some kind of theory about this thing. When things are closed, when everyone is together, when everything is solid, you become a force. But when you're individual, when you're one-on-one, that's when you're fragile. That's when you're exposed. So,
I like that.
Yeah, the same thing with this paper. When you're on one, when you open this paper and you see 2 or 3 sheets, I mean, you can just run your finger right through it and just rip the whole sculpture, and there's no problem. And I've had people, that don't know how to handle it. When I've had exhibitions, for example, in New York, and just recent, I have people that they think they see me touching me and they see me moving me and say, oh, and then I look away and all of a sudden I see this guy trying to handle the sculpture, and half of the sculpture's on the floor because they don't know that gravity will bring it down. You have to kind of know how to handle it, because if not, the first thing in the sculpture is like a drunk guy, hanging. If you don't know how to hold him up, he's just going to go straight down. With the same with his
the momentum.
Yeah, it's just gravity will want to bring him down. So if you kind of had once you handle it, there's a beauty to the movement, and I've started to experiment with remote controls and with motors built into it to open it. Doesn't have the grace that it does when you open it by hand, but I'm experimenting with different mediums and just different things. The story of the Band-Aid is basically when I was making Andy Warhol. I did the Andy Warhol Cheez-Its, and as I was making the Andy Warhol Cheez-Its, I got to his hands, and his hands, as I was carving the paper kind of tore in where the finger is, where the pinky is. So I said, man, what am I going to do? I can't do this whole damn thing again. So basically I came up with an idea to put a solid piece of paper and just glue it into there and then make it look like a Band-Aid. So basically the actual mistake was a Band-Aid itself. So, but it worked out awesome though. It worked out great. When you look at the sculpture, everybody looks at the little Mickey Mouse Band-Aid on his pinky and say, oh, how cute. I said, well, yeah, it's got a story behind it.
Wow. That's so meta.
Yeah.
So all that being said about having to handle it right, did you want to punch Ryan Seacrest in the face when he's just like throwing it around like a yo-yo?
I just said, geez, this guy thinks, he was just throwing it around like a yo-yo, And even the executive producer was telling him, be careful now.
Yeah. Now Ryan, he didn't care.
Well, no, I think he got it after. Good thing that I used a really strong paper on those mugs.
Right.
Because, if not, he would have torn right through it.
Right. Yeah. He didn't know. I guess that's the whole thing. Like, you don't expect it. So it's like, whoa.
You don't expect it. And I think, after that he realized. But,
right.
Yeah, I'm working with a lot of people right now that want me to create these things, but they don't understand it. Some people don't understand how to. So I tell them, watch my videos. And, I know you've seen enough of my videos, but just look at some of the stuff so you'll know how to handle it. Like when people buy my Coke cans, for example, they're also very fragile because they're smaller. The gluing lines is only like 2 or 3 lines, so they don't have as much glue within the radius of the sculpture itself. So you open it up and you kind of play with it like you would a slinky. And I kind of tell people to, watch my videos and watch how I do it just so you get an idea.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your painting too, and Kind of looking back at your painting, would you say that that was like kind of a gateway into what you're doing now? Like,
Yes, originally, as I started to draw and paint and teach myself how to paint, I mean, I get such a high from painting because it's such a release of creativity for me instantly that I really get a high from it. So as I developed these sculptures, I really didn't think much of the sculptures, to be honest with you. I mean, I knew they were different, but I really said, I'm going to make these sculptures so I can attract people to my paintings. It hasn't worked out like that, but hopefully one day, people realize my paintings are very unique as well.
now, what is your relationship with your paint? Like, kind of the relationship between your painting and your sculptures. Like, how much time are you spending on each?
Well, obviously spend more time on my sculptures because my sculptures, it's still a bust can take over a month, 2 months, depending on how, like Frida, for example, took over a month and a half to create. So they still take more time. I mean, on a painting, I can be, I'm not the kind of painter that's more realistic, that takes time. And, my paintings are a reflection of my instinct creativity. So I may splash paint, I may scribble on the canvas, I may apply a spray paint, just whatever. I mean, however I can send my message across, and whatever medium I can send my message across, I'll do it and I'll mix it. And obviously, a lot of my sculptures, or most of my sculptures, involve painting as well. Mm-hmm. So that is like if you look at for example, my Cheez-It box, I mean, that's all hand painted. My Coca-Cola cans are all hand. Everything that I have is all hand painted. So definitely the two have come together in that sense.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to you too. I think when people see what your sculptures can do, can see like the kind of animation part of it, they forget about how good of a sculpture it looks like when it's not doing that. Right. So congratulations to you for being such a talented painter as well, to be able to really bring the things to life, and like that really adds to the trickery of it,
Yeah, I think it does. I think it really does. It finalizes that I don't know, that veil that you just don't see. And if it would have been just a white sculpture, I think you kind of lose the beauty of being tricked by it.
Right. Now, on the show, we like to talk about resistances and things that have held you back. And, you've gotten through a lot going through the 2008 and then finding this whole new thing. But like on a daily basis, do you have any like kind of self-doubts or things that kind of creep in as you're creating on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we all do. But I as an artist, as I was saying earlier, I mean, as an artist, you always have self-doubts. You always doubt yourself to some degree, and then there's something that takes you to the other side and say, okay, you shouldn't feel this way because look at what you've done and look at what you've created. Or while you're creating, all of a sudden this creation turns into what you expected or even more. So yes, on a daily basis, I have self-doubts. I have self-doubts about everything. I mean, am I going to sell enough or this? And it always turns out that I'm always surpassed. Somehow the universe, comes together and says, you're on the right path and here's the reward. And it happens on a daily basis.
Right. And now to push through that, do you still look to motivational stuff? Like, is that still a part of your life?
No, that really isn't a part of my life. I think it's already embedded in me. It's already ingrained in me. I don't need to hear it anymore. I mean, I don't mind listening to it once in a while, but it's not a need anymore for me. I think it's just already built into me. It's already there. So I think when bad times happens, somehow I'm able to pull through.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to get motivational stuff, and I always try to encourage people, like, stop listening to this podcast if you don't need to. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, there's only so many people can tell you that you just need to kind of take life into your own hands and to just get out there and do the work and push past all of the kind of self-doubts and laziness or whatever else might creep into your brain or your life. You know what you have to do, and listening to motivational stuff can only make you temporarily feel like you're doing something, but it doesn't actually get done until you actually get up and do it and you know what you have to do.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And one thing, if I only got one thing out of all this motivational stuff with Tony Robbins and a lot of these other speakers that I went to, and one of them says, basically it's saying get off the chair and just do what you got to do. Is just massive action equals massive results. If you put a lot of stuff out there and if you do a lot, you're going to get a lot in return. If you sit your ass on the couch and you watch TV and you just say, I've just been motivated into eating more potato chips, then there's nothing going to happen. So, I think just that kind of sums it up. Just take action and you'll see the results.
Right. And so much of that has to do with what you were talking about before with that instant gratification. I think the world is based on instant gratification these days. And it is kind of setting yourself up for those long-term hard work, like big result things like you with your sculptures that take a really long time, but then you have this thing, the solid thing that you can look at and be like, wow, it took me a long time, but now I have this thing forever that I created that I can kind of like display, and that can also spur you into the next big thing and realizing that, all this hard work that I'm putting into this big thing is going to pay off. Look at this other thing that I did. And it just
and I think that, my sculptures, do take a long time, but I think once you build on that and you see, how long they take and then the beauty and what you have after that, I think that kind of motivates you to the next one. And like you said, I think once you get on that cycle and you know what the outcome is going to be. And the same thing with life or with anything you do in life. Once you get into a cycle, once you get into an exercise program, then you know what the results are going to be, because they're not only going to help you physically, they're going to help you mentally, emotionally, and all these other things. So the same thing, I think you can apply that to kind of anything.
Absolutely. So what does your daily life look like? I know you said it's like a joy to just wake up, go to the studio, just start creating, start building. That's wonderful that it's like, every day feels like great, but also there does come time for, planning and kind of strategically figuring out what you're going to create or what makes you the most happy, or like this big project that you have to do for a client that has to get done versus something that you want to do, like, cause you need to kind of get that, that painting out of you or that explosive type of creativity to just get it out of you. So like, how do you kind of like work your days like that?
Yeah, like for example, I used to have my studio used to be, like about 20, 30 minutes from my home. So I wake up in the morning and just drink coffee and, do a little exercise to get the blood flowing and just get going. But now I built a studio behind my house. So I have my big studio there. And so I just get up, do my exercise, do what I need to do, get motivated, and just walk back there and just sometimes I want to be back there so badly that I just bypass everything else. But I got to force myself not to because I really want to just get onto it, but I don't. I know there's other things in life need to take place. My wife will tell me, all you do is art. I said, well, that's what I love. That's why I say, yeah, but there's other things in life. I said, okay, all right. You got it.
Okay, I'll take the trash out, honey.
Yeah, I'll take the trash out. But no, it's just a, that's, I get up, I do that, and then I do what I plan my sculptures out depending on what I have on my agenda. For example, if I have several commissions that I know they're going to be due in a certain amount of time, I know how long more or less a sculpture is going to take me. For example, I'm doing a bust right now for an actor in LA. And I know how long it's going to take me. He needs it by Christmas. So, and I not only have that, I have several other stuff. So I have to really juggle. I have to juggle, my time with all this other things. But the good thing is that I'm when I get into a project that I'm so excited, and what excites me too on these new things is just, going in a new direction, discovering something that I haven't done before. That's excites me a lot. And when it excites me so much, that when I go to sleep at night, I'm thinking about all these angles, how I'm going to make it, how I'm going to do it. And it takes me a long time to go to sleep because I'm so excited about it. And when I wake up, I just want to put on my clothes and just jump back to my studio because I've got all these ideas how to make it and all these new discoveries that I'm getting into. That really, really does get the blood flowing.
I love that. Yeah, I just love being able to talk to you and I feel your excitement. And I think that's the thing that every creative person strives for is find the way to make your life kind of fit around the thing that excites you the most. And sometimes it's hard to find that thing that excites you the most, but that's why you kind of have to experiment and try new things and really fall into it.
Stuff happens, like I said, stuff happens to me and happened to me that wasn't good. And it guided me to a good direction. And found out what, sometimes you got to let go, let go of the driving wheel and just kind of let life guide you a little bit in the direction it wants to take you and just go with the flow. And then I think look inside you, look inside what what motivates you and what ticks you, and just go with that. I mean, not everyone has the creativity to create. Some people have the gift of math. Some people have the gift of music. Some people have the gift of talking, whatever it may be. I mean, I think that's the beauty of this world. I mean, we're not all the same, and we're all built differently. So I think if we can all tap into whatever motivate us individually, I think the core of the story here is just, I think it can be applied to anyone.
Absolutely. Well, Felix, I know how excited you are to get to your work, and I know that you have a lot to get to. So I really appreciate your time. And before we let you go, though, I like to ask you for what we call the final push. And this is where I ask you to reach through the microphone and grab the shoulder of one of the listeners that you've already really inspired today, and just give them your best final words of advice and really push them to pursue their own creative passions.
You know, if I had to say one thing, is just do what you're passionate about and just get out there and do it. Don't think about it anymore. Just take everything that's inside of you and just do it. Just make it happen. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till this afternoon. Just get the phone, call somebody, do what you need to do to get the ball going. Once that ball gets going, it's going to grow like a big snowball. And it's going to get so big you won't be able to control it, because that passion is going to drive you. And you're going to be behind in a slate, just going at it, because it's going to take you. It's going to take you real far. And I think just follow your passion. That's all.
I love it. This episode will be out like right around Christmas, so that's a great Christmas theme.
Awesome.
Wintry theme. I love it. It's perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Get that momentum going. You got to start from somewhere, though. So
absolutely. Yes.
Felix, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show today, for sharing your story, and for sharing your energy. I really feel motivated myself right now because, awesome. Like I said, you're in it, and I love it, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure being here, and then stay in touch, man.
Excellent. Yeah, and for everybody listening, you can find Felix on his website, felixsemper.com. That's Semper. And then on Instagram, he is Felix Semper. And of course, we'll have that all linked up at today's show notes page, yourcreativepush.com/Felix Semper. Felix, thanks again, man.
Thank you.
My thanks to Felix once again for coming on the show. Two quick things. First, this is something that a lot of guests have talked about. The thing that took them out of their creative drought. It's taking a class or joining a club. It seems like something that's so simple, but when you make that commitment to sign up for a class that you have to go to, perhaps you paid for it, it gives you that structure to help you to start to integrate creativity back into your life. Sometimes it's nice to get assignments, and sometimes it's very nice to have a community of peers, people that are also learning with you, learning these new concepts. But just signing up for something and giving yourself that structure is sometimes all you need to really get going. And of course, I couldn't let you go without commenting on the wonderful parallels that there are between his sculptures and the creative life. As creative people, we often want to stay in our shells. We want to be closed to the world because that's when we're strongest. That's when nobody can penetrate us. That's when we can't feel failure or show our weak sides. But when you do open up, when you do stretch out, that's when you become the most unique and the most surprising and the most beautiful creative person that you can be. When you do stretch yourself out and you do open up and show your insides, yes, it's scary because you are opening up your most vulnerable side of yourself to criticism or to rejection or to failure. But that's also when you are showing your true self. That's when you're going to be happiest with your art, with your creative output, and you're going to give yourself the best chance to surprise people, to show them what you're truly made of. Because so often that's the thing that they're looking for, because that's what they're made of too. On our next episode, we have David Kochberg. David is a member of the band Goodnight Sunrise, which is an indie rock and roll super fun dance party band from Toronto, Canada. He is also a loyal listener to Your Creative Push. And when he reached out to me to offer his services to come on the show and share his story, I jumped at the opportunity because he has a great story and one that will definitely inspire you. Spoiler alert, he got to open up for Bon Jovi. Such a cool story to hear, and so many lessons that you can take from that story and also his whole story overall. If you want to listen to some of Goodnight Sunrise's music, you can head to goodnightsunrise.com. You can also check them out on Instagram, GNSR Band, and we'll have it all linked up as well at today's show notes page, yourcreativepush.com/316. But that's all I've got for you today, so hopefully you were inspired to go and get your work done, so go and get it done. Find ways to stretch yourself out, find ways to open yourself up so that you can dazzle your audience and connect to them in ways that only you can. I love you all so much. Have a wonderful creative week, and we will see you next time. Bye. Never miss a push. Head to yourcreativepush.com/subscribe to find the easiest way for you to subscribe to the podcast.